All right, so move on to the next segment. We'll be discussing the landscape of NFL coaching, the coaching carousels that's going on in the NFL. I'll be sharing my thoughts on all the head coaches and coordinators that have been fired and relieved of their duties in the last 48 hours. So we got some news Monday. And as I record this Tuesday evening on the East Coast, Eastern Time, I'll be going over all the head coaches and coordinators that have been relieved of their duties, starting off with Raheem Morris being fired by the Atlanta Falcons. They wasted no time Sunday night. A few hours after their finale win against the New Orleans Saints, Raheem Morris was fired within 2 seasons of being the Atlanta Falcons head coach. So, my thoughts on Raheem Morris being fired. Now, I can understand the argument of why people might believe it was the right call for Raheem Morris to be fired by the Atlanta Falcons. And I can understand the argument for some people that believed that Raheem Morris might have earned the opportunity to at least stick around a little bit longer in Atlanta. I can understand both sides because the Atlanta Falcons did finish the season at 8-9. They did finish under 500, but they did win 4 games in a row to close the season. So that's the case for people that are saying Raheem Morris should have stayed. They did have that impressive Week 17 Monday Night Football victory against the Los Angeles Rams. The defense looked really good, picking off Matthew Stafford a total 3 times in that victory at home. Look, the thing is, with the NFC South, the ugliest division of football, it ended up being a 3-way tie, 8-9, 8-9, 8-9, between the Carolina Panthers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Atlanta Falcons. If the Atlanta Falcons just did their damn job, week 12, week 13, when they went on the road at MetLife Stadium to play the New York Jets, one of the worst teams in football, you actually win that game, you get into the playoffs at 9-8. And to some, could have been a sneaky wild card team based off of the roster that they have in Atlanta. So, it's the thing. Overall, Raheem Morris, his tenure with the Atlanta Falcons, they've been inconsistent. 16 victories and 18 losses in his 2 years being with the Atlanta Falcons. Inconsistent, falling off hard after their 6-3 start last year to miss the postseason. Then you see all the talent that they have in Atlanta. Raheem Morris is responsible for wasting that talent. He was a bad game manager as a head coach. And overall, the team has not been to the postseason since 2017. So a lot of people are getting frustrated in Atlanta. And I can understand the frustration of Arthur Smith wanting to move off of Raheem Morris because they want to win now. Because they got the talent to win now. Especially in the worst division of football in the NFC South. So I think Arthur Smith has shown he's grown impatient with firing Raheem Morris. And they fired their general manager. There's talent all over the board. And this could be honestly the best spot for a head coach to be fired or hired this NFL offseason because they have Bijan Robinson, Drake London at wide receiver, Kyle Pitts at tight end, they bring him back, Darnell Mooney at wide receiver, Jalon Walker, James Pierce as edge rushers, AJ Terrell as a corner. They still got Jesse Bates at safety. Like, I think this Atlanta Falcons job is one of the most intriguing jobs to have this NFL offseason. But I think it was time for Raheem Morris to be fired and relieved of his duties in Atlanta. Now, next head coach that was fired, Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski was fired by the Cleveland Browns after spending 6 seasons with the team. My thoughts on this, honestly, it was time for a divorce between Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. I touched up on this a few weeks ago and seen a divorce coming. It now just happened that the divorce papers are finally on the desk for Kevin Stefanski as he's now out of Cleveland. And I think it was the right way to go. I mean, there was no growth that we were seeing out of Kevin Stefanski at this point with the Cleveland Browns. Not an overall bad head coach, 2-time coach of the year, but it just wasn't working out in Cleveland anymore. And I think it was time to go. But Kevin Stefanski finished his time with the Cleveland Browns with 45 wins and 56 losses, 1-2 in the playoffs with the Cleveland Browns. In the last 2 seasons for the Cleveland Browns, it was an absolute disaster. I mean, he went 8-26 in the last 2 seasons with the Cleveland Browns. 8 wins, 26 losses is not good for anybody. And for an offensive coach, I called him out on this over the last few weeks. He must be held accountable for the job that he did. I don't give a damn if it's the Browns or not. You're an NFL head coach with an offensive background. No offensive growth with the Cleveland Browns over the last few years since, honestly, Baker Mayfield was the starting quarterback. And they have almost been dead last in every offensive category. 13 different quarterbacks since Kevin Stefanski has been the head coach. no trustable, sustainable offense in Cleveland. And every time the offense did bad in Cleveland, I'm gonna wipe my hands clean of the duties. I don't want any parts of this. I'm no longer the play caller. That's a bad look as a head coach. And not only that, I think as a head coach, at times he was exposed for having bad in-game adjustments. And the writing on the wall is he never gave a damn about Shedeur Sanders, because he gave Shedeur Sanders the wrong play calling wristband on the road weeks ago against the Chicago Bears. That is a horrible, horrible look. Plus, Shedeur Sanders has been on the team since fucking April. Excuse my language, but since fucking April. And you never gave him reps with the number ones until he got on the field in that home game against the Baltimore Ravens. Unacceptable. So, I think Kevin Stefanski, again, is not a bad head coach. It was just time for him to get out of Cleveland. The divorce was written on the wall. And honestly, he still has a chance to be a head coach somewhere else. Like, I'm looking at the Ravens job. I'm looking at the Giants job, the Titans, the Raiders. Like, he still has a chance to be a head coach somewhere. Or he could get on his feet and redeem himself, build up his resume again as an offensive coordinator somewhere else. But I think he'll be in the NFL coaching somewhere as a offensive coordinator or head coach next NFL season. Pete Carroll has been fired by the Las Vegas Raiders after spending one season with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, honestly, everybody could see this coming. It just was not working in Vegas for Pete Carroll. He finished the season with 3 wins and 14 losses. That was the worst franchise record that the Las Vegas Raiders have ever had in franchise history. And everything falls on Pete Carroll. I'm sorry, guys, it falls on him. Especially the offense. That especially falls on him, because you get the front office to trade for your former quarterback that you had in Seattle with Geno Smith. Geno Smith stuck up the joint and honestly finesse money, $70 million or more from the Las Vegas Raiders. Had 19 passing touchdowns, 17 interceptions. That's a bad look, bad touchdown interception ratio. Offense was last in total points and total yardage this year. And you also brought in Chip Kelly, giving him another chance in the NFL. He was the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. Then you bring him in back to the NFL, and his offensive scheme just stunk up the joint. And yeah, they fired him, but things never got better. They got blown out several times throughout the year, and they got shut out twice. And they were on a 10-game losing streak until they finally won their final game of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs, Week 18 at home. So it was time to go. And looking at it, guys, I think overall it was too much for Pete Carroll to handle. And what I mean by too much to handle, you're asking Pete Carroll at 74 years old. He would have been 70. He's turned 75 in September. You're asking a 74-year-old man to turn the whole entire franchise around that has holes all over the place. They got a hole at the quarterback position. They're probably going to draft one. Fernando Mendoza is probably going to be a Raider in April. But they got a hole at the quarterback position. The offensive line is bad. The receiver room is not really strong. The linebacker room sucks. The DBs suck. And probably you just ran out Max Crosby, your best defensive player. So there's another hole. Edge rusher. You might as well claim it now. This team is an absolute mess. And the Raiders have been a team that some have looked at like, hey, they can make the jump. But Raiders have a long way to go before they're even a wild card team again, or viewed as a playoff team. Other than the location being in Vegas, other than Brock Bowers, one of the best tight ends in the league, a young running back in Ashton Jeanty. What is there really to look forward to if you want to be a head coach in Vegas with this Las Vegas Raiders team? Honestly, other than those 3 factors, I don't understand why anybody will want to be the head coach in Vegas. But it's a job opening. I think this is the end of Pete Carroll's NFL career. Oh, next, Jonathan Gannon has been fired by the Arizona Cardinals after 3 seasons with the team. Now, this was a rough way to go out. I think Jonathan Gannon still has a lot to prove in the NFL, but the inexperience played a factor as a head coach. I know it's 3 years, but when you play in one of the best divisions of football, the NFC West, that has outstanding coaches from top to bottom, Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers, Sean McVay with the Los Angeles Rams, Mike McDonald, the new kid on the block, has established himself in Seattle. When you play these guys several times out of the year, 6 times out of the year, you're going to get some losses. And I think Jonathan Gannon was clearly the worst coach out of the 3 that I just mentioned. But he did not do a good job in Arizona this year. They finished 3-14, And he went 15-36, 15 wins, 36 losses in his tenure with the Arizona Cardinals over the last 3 years, which is not good. The Arizona Cardinals lost their final 14 out of 15 games after they beat my Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. That's fucking disgraceful. But excuse my French again. As I digress, you guys get my point. He had to go out of Arizona. They had to go in a different direction. And I think this is another guy that can still coach in the NFL. He just has to rebuild his stock as a defensive coordinator, hope to get hired somewhere. But honestly, I think he still has a lot to prove as a defensive coordinator. You guys seen the job that he did in Philly. That's the reason why the Arizona Cardinals hired him when he helped the Philadelphia Eagles get to the Super Bowl a few years ago. So I think he still has life in the NFL as a coach, but he's going to have to start as a defensive coordinator or a defensive positions coach to earn his way back up to being a head coach one day. Oh, and this one was just heaven when I got the notification on my phone today. I'll go with a coordinator. Matt Eberflus has been fired by the Dallas Cowboys as a defensive coordinator, spending one season with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, my prayers have been answered as a Dallas Cowboys fan. Matt Eberflus gets the fuck out of Dallas. This was well overdue. And I was calling for Matt Eberflus to be fired when I took the trip to Dallas and I seen the defense an absolute mess on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. I was calling for Matt Eberflus to be fired then and there, but it didn't happen. But Matt Eberflus, this defense, he's responsible for this defense giving up 30 points per game. That is the most allowed points this NFL season out of all 32 defenses. And you could tell players began to give up a Matt Eberflus scheme. If he wasn't going to make adjustments for his own personnel, that honestly wasn't the best, and you can clearly see that on the field. But if you're not going to make the adjustments as a coordinator for your own personnel, why would the players give a damn about your defensive scheme and buy into what the hell you're feeding them 5 to 7 days out of the week? So honestly, this defense, I can honestly say this Dallas Cowboys defense might be historically the worst defense of franchise history. More historically bad than that 2020 Dallas Cowboys defense, if you guys remember during the COVID days. But this Dallas Cowboys defense gave up 500 or more points this NFL season. Matt Eberflus was the former head coach in Chicago for the last 2 years. You're in the NFC North competing against the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings. When we played against those teams this year, we went 0-3-1. You guys want to know why we went 0-3-1? It's because the defense cost us most of those games. Matt Eberflus' defense surrendered an average of 37 points per game against the NFC North, a division that you played twice a year when you were in Chicago. Matt Eberflus didn't give a damn about you, and neither did he respect you, because his offense put up 40 on us in that Sunday Night Football game. The Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell didn't give a damn about your defensive scheme when he had 9 J.J. McCarthy running it up on us. Jared Goff, Dan Campbell didn't give a damn about you or respect your defensive scheme when he ran it up on us. Like, you're supposed to be prepared, and those are revenge games for you. And again, 0-3-1, giving up an average of 37 points per game was truly the red flag for me that Matt Eberflus does not belong in the National Football League as a defensive coordinator anymore. Sayonara, get the hell out of Dallas. But I understand that for his sake, you did trade Micah Parsons before the season started, 7 days prior, and Micah Parsons was not there in training camp for you. But even if Micah Parsons was there, he's still one of the best edge rushers in the league. I still love that guy. He wouldn't have been enough to save this Dallas Cowboys defense. The defense still would have been bad. So again, Matt Eberflus' scheme of a 4-3 zone, only rushing 4 pass rushers, dropping your defensive corners back 7 to 8 yards in coverage all the damn time. NFL offenses just picked up on it. And that's the reason why we were one of, if not the worst defensive unit in the National Football League this year. But as a replacement, I would love for the Dallas Cowboys to go after Jim Schwartz. We'll see the situation if the Cleveland Browns decide to retain him or not. Whoever their next head coach is, retain Jim Schwartz, a good defensive-minded head coach. I would love to see him in Dallas. Brian Flores, if somehow, someway, Jerry Jones can steal him away from the Minnesota Vikings and bring him as a Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, I would love every single second of that. We would honestly be contenders, and I will say it right now. We would be contenders with Brian Flores. Jonathan Gannon just got fired by the Arizona Cardinals. I would love for him to get another crack at being a defensive coordinator in the league and come to Dallas. Or Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is probably last out of the names I just mentioned, but any of those coordinators could come to Dallas and help revamp and retool this defense, and that's going to be the story of the offseason. This Dallas Cowboys defense getting retooled because they got a tough 2026 NFL season. And the main event of this segment, the news that just broke a few hours ago, John Harbaugh being fired by the Baltimore Ravens after spending 18 years in Baltimore. Now, honestly, I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. I said it last week on the podcast when I had my guy, Manny Wilson, the host of the Run podcast on the show. I said the loser of that game, there would be huge ramifications for the loser. Not only would the losing team of that Sunday night game would be out, but I said the loser of that game would be needing a new head coach because John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin would be fired. And it was John Harbaugh that lost the game, and he's fired 48 hours after that tough loss in Pittsburgh. Now, it was time for John Harbaugh to leave the Baltimore Ravens. This divorce was written on the wall for a while, and I think a lot of people knew that John Harbaugh needed to be let go out of Baltimore. It's just the fact that the front office had the cojones to end this marriage between themselves and John Harbaugh. And I'm telling you guys, from 2019 to 2025, that was the Baltimore Ravens' best chance of winning a Super Bowl. I think, in a way, the Super Bowl window has closed for now, and John Harbaugh did not capitalize on that. Didn't even get to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl, bring another title back to Baltimore. And this season, all across the board, coaching for Baltimore has been a mess. You can point the finger at John Harbaugh. I will honestly point the finger at offensive coordinator Todd Monken that did sell the team a lot. How the hell is Derrick Henry only getting 5 carries in the second half against Pittsburgh? How the hell is Derrick Henry only getting 24 snaps against the New England Patriots a few weeks ago, Sunday Night Football, and do-or-die games? I'm also going to point the finger at Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator. Starting off slow, back-to-back years. This is the reason why there was a lot of L's in the win-loss column early on in the season, is because of defensive play as well. So, overall, the coaching staff was not good, and that falls on John Harbaugh, on your coaching staff. But this season wasn't pretty. The Ravens were 0-4 in games decided by 5 points or less. There was several fourth quarter collapses, several double-digit fourth quarter leads surrendered by the Baltimore Ravens. And honestly, the reports have just came out that John Harbaugh lost the locker room. And you could tell John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson started to butt heads. And the franchise is always going to pick their star player, generational talent Lamar Jackson, over a replaceable coach in John Harbaugh. That did get you a Super Bowl in the past, but you guys tell me, who would you rather have, Lamar or John Harbaugh moving forward in Baltimore? Clearly, the Ravens went Lamar, and that was the perfect choice. But what the Ravens should have did, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot for years for this. What they should have did after the 2023 NFL season when they got to the AFC Championship and lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, they should have passed the baton. Pass the baton to Mike Macdonald to be their next head coach, and you give John Harbaugh a job in the front office to keep him in Baltimore, and Mike Macdonald is your head coach in Baltimore. You don't have to worry about this shit right now. But now Mike Macdonald's dancing around with the number 1 seed in the NFC with the Seattle Seahawks at 14-3. You just missed your opportunity to have the next guy carry the franchise for the next 5 to 10 years as a head coach. But John Harbaugh, guys, I think he's the hottest head coach on the market as of today. A lot of teams are going to be trying to get John Harbaugh. The Falcons could use him. The Giants could use him. The Titans, the Raiders, the Browns. If the Jets have the balls to fire Aaron Glenn, like, everybody's going to want this guy because at the end of the day, this man is a former Super Bowl champion. At the end of the day, this man has over 180 career wins with the Baltimore Ravens, 13 playoff victories. Anybody's going to want the services of John Harbaugh. But end of an era in Baltimore. But that was a long segment, a good segment. But those are my thoughts on the head coaching carousel currently happening in the NFL today.